You may be team gridlock, not team gridlock. Team Grid. What is up, Flockers? That is my fellow Lockers and aspiring Lockers. In today's video, we are going to be talking about some of the differences with having a grid or having no grid and some of the pros and cons that come along with them. So stick around. I know that one of the conversations that comes up when people are thinking about embarking on a Microloc journey, regardless of which Microloc starter method they want to start with, is whether or not to have a specific grid or not. So first, I'm gonna start out with people who are team grid and some of the reasons why you may want to be team grid and some of the things that may hinder you from wanting to be team grid. So the first thing that might have you on team grid is if you are a perfectionist. Do you have a need for perfection, for crispness, for things to look uniform and perfect? Because if you do, then team grid is where it is at, whether you are doing it yourself or whether you have a friend or a loctician doing it for you. If you are a perfectionist and you like for everything to be pristine and in its place and exactly the way that you want it to look, then you want to go ahead and be on team grid and make sure that you have someone doing it for you that knows how to do it well, or that you are going to do it well and execute it well. Now, me, myself, personally, I am not a perfectionist. Even in life, I think my hair reflects my life in the sense that I am a neat person, but not in the sense of everything has to be perfect and perfect sizing and perfect squares or anything like that. Because when I started my lock journey myself, I did not part specifically. I did not take too much time to think about the sizing or make sure that everything was the perfect size. I wanted different sizes and I wanted different everything so that it would just be a little bit of a hodgepodge, and that's how my life is. So if you are not that type of hodgepodge, spontaneous person in life, then team grid is probably the way for you. The second reason that you may want to be team grid is if when you are wanting to do your styles, if you are the type of person that likes to have perfect parts when you do your styles. Now, there's a difference between almost perfect parts and extremely perfect parts. And those of you that know. For me, again, I'm not about that perfect life. And so even my middle part isn't perfectly perfect. Sometimes I'm like, that lock could go that way or this lock could go this way. But I know that there are some people out there that will take a rat tooth comb and make sure that every single hair is perfectly on whatever side it's supposed to be on and whichever lock it's supposed to be in. And so when you're doing your styles, as your hair gets longer, whether you're doing twists or braids or rolls, if you like your stuff to be perfectly straight, then you're gonna wanna be team grid. Because I do not have a specific grid or anything like that, when I do my cornrows or other styles, they are not straight, and that does not bother me. But if you are the type of person that when you part your hair, you want to be able to have a straight line going back, then you're gonna wanna be team grid. So that way, like I said, when you go in to do a cornrow style or whatever, you will have that perfect parting, and you see, like, I can't get a perfect line back. And that doesn't bother me because one, I don't style my hair that often, and two, when I do style my hair, like, it doesn't bother me that if I'm gonna do a style like this, and obviously this is not a good depiction of a style, but it doesn't bother me that the line isn't perfect, that it's, you know, zigzagging or whatever like that, because it doesn't bother me at the end of the day. But yeah, if it bothers you and you're the type of person that wants that perfect line and for it to look crisp and perfect, then you're gonna be team grid. A con, sort of con that I thought of when you are team grid and something that you just want to take into account is that because you have that perfect grid, when you first start your locks or get them installed, you're probably gonna have that plucked chicken look, regardless of whether you have thin hair, fine hair, dense hair. It's gonna give the appearance of a plucked chicken look. And then also when you do get your reties, you may also still deal with that plucked chicken look even well into your lock journey, just because, again, everything is perfectly lined up, and perfectly in its place. So then when you go in to do the maintenance, it makes everything go back into its place. And so there's not that fuzziness, there's not that, you know, blurry line. Everything is very, and so if you are fine with having a plucked chicken look in the very beginning, and then also throughout your lock journey when you get reties, if that doesn't bother you, then again, you may be team gridlock, not team gridlock, team grid. And as your locks mature, they get thicker. And so obviously further on down your lock journey, the plucked chicken look isn't going to be as plucked chickeny, and it's not going to be as noticeable as it is in the beginning of your journey. But I have seen microlockers who are well into their journey, 18 months, 24 months, and so on, who when they do their reties, you can still see their scalp all over just because of the fact that they have that perfect pristine grid. All right, and for those that are team no grid like myself, one of the awesome things about it is that is just quicker and easier to do, whether you choose to do it yourself or you have someone else doing it for you, whether it's a professional loctician or just a friend or acquaintance doing your hair. It's quicker and easier in the sense that you're not having to be a perfectionist and make sure that you have straight lines. And so you're speeding up your time when you're doing it because you're not having to worry about the perfection of it. You're not having to take your rat comb tail and part your hair 15 times in the same spot to make sure that every hair is in the right place. And like I said, it's just easier because you're not having to go for that level of perfection. There is room for imperfection, and so it takes the pressure off for everything to have to be perfect and in its place. So if your life is more, if your hair reflects your life like mine and it's more so carefree and spontaneous, but still liking to look neat and put together, but not perfect, you know, neat and put together with a bit of imperfection, then maybe team no grid is where it's at for you. Something else that is a definite positive for not having a grid is that it is going to give you a fuller look from day one. So like I talked about with team grid, and having that plucked chicken look, when you have no grid, that doesn't fully eliminate the problem, especially if you have fine hair, but it definitely minimizes the problem of the plucked chicken look. When I go back and look at pictures from my day one or week one, week two, and when I do my reties, I don't have that plucked chicken look. I have a fuller look to my hair, and you don't see my scalp. You see enough of it. If you were to part my hair, then you can see my scalp, but you know, even right after a fresh retie, you're not seeing my scalp to the point where you're like, ooh, why do I see his scalp everywhere where I look? That is a definite pro, and if you're into that pro and want your hair to have a fuller look, then maybe team no grid is where it is for you. All right, and one of the cons of not having a grid is obviously the parting issue. If you have no issues with not having perfect parts, then this isn't gonna be a con for you, but if you like to have perfect parts, if you like for each cornrow to be the exact same width and have the exact same amount of locks in it, then team no grid probably isn't gonna be for you. Yes, because I have Microlocs, I'm able to get several cornrows or flat twists or whatever style I wanna do in my hair, but they are not all equal, they are not all straight, they are not all perfect. And it does not bother me because they're close enough to looking perfect that it doesn't faze me, and I'm not that great at doing hair to where it would be like, oh, I mean, it is what it is. My styles, I think, come out looking decent. It doesn't hinder me, but it is definitely a con for those who would like that perfect look and to have the ratios to a certain T in perfection. If you found this video helpful at all, make sure to hit that like button, and while you're here, hit the subscribe button and stick around for a while and watch some of the other videos that have popped up on the screen. I will see you there.